Thank you all for joining us today for this very special announcement regarding the future of the Detroit Police Department and our city of Detroit. After today's program, the mayor and the chief will take questions from the podium regarding today's announcements. If reporters have questions that they'd like answered off topic, then certainly we could do that after this announcement. Now I'd like to bring up to the podium our mayor, Mayor Duggan.
All right. All right. Well, we have a good day today. When I was running for mayor, I was very critical of the fact that this city had gone through 5 police chiefs in 5 years. There was a sense of instability that was contributing to a real lack of public safety, and it's not the way you run a first-class city. As you know, Chief Craig was hired under Emergency Manager Kevin Orr, and I got a lot of questions about what do you think about the fact the emergency manager hired the police chief. And I said the same thing over and over. I was going to evaluate Chief Craig the same as every other person in the organization. If he performed well, he's going to be here for a long time. And if he didn't, he wasn't. But everybody can earn their position. And that's all the chief ever wanted. I have been so pleased at what I have seen, and it's gone by so fast it's almost hard to remember. But at the time Chief Craig came in, the morale of the police officers was the worst that I had seen it. They were on forced 12-hour shifts. We had arrests down. You had any place I went, the police officers were talking about how they felt unappreciated by the city of Detroit. Citizens didn't feel a whole lot better. You might remember we were locking the precincts at 5 o'clock at night. So if citizens wanted to come in and make a complaint or talk to somebody, the precincts were closed. And you wonder why you don't get citizen cooperation. Chief Craig, in one of his first acts, opened the precincts and invited the community back in. These are steps that are extremely important in restoring the confidence. When Chief Craig started, and everybody knows I'm kind of a metrics fanatic, the response time to 911 in this city was 37 minutes. I mean, it was a national scandal. Now it's down to 16 minutes, very close to the national standard. It has been cut more than in half. These are pretty remarkable accomplishments at a time when a city was in the turmoil of bankruptcy. We're not kidding ourselves. We know how serious the crime problem is. This city is much too violent. And if you look at the statistics this year, our homicides and our shootings are up, but nearly every other category of crime continues to drop significantly. We've got a serious problem in the city with people using guns to settle beefs, and we need to attack it. And the chief and I have been in extensive conversations with U.S. Attorney Barb McQuaid and Prosecutor Kim Worthy, because if you're going to attack it, it's not the police department by itself, it's everybody together. And in the next year, you will see, in fact, not the next year, next couple of months, you're going to see serious strategies. The question is, what's the best approach? And I am confident that we have the right leader for this department. But I never do things by myself. I've consulted with every council member and asked their opinions of the job the police chief is doing. There's overwhelming support. And this is an interesting part of the process because Emergency Manager Orr made an appointment of the chief through June 30th. So his tenure would have been up at the end of next month. He also put in his final order the authority of the mayor to negotiate an extension and sign an extension of that contract. So I was vested with the power to make the decision, but I consulted with the council members. You'll see several of them here today. They were enormously supported. I sat down with both U.S. Attorney McQuaid and Prosecutor Worthy. They strongly endorsed the extension of Chief Craig's tenure. I talked to the police union leadership, who strongly supported it, and I talked to Police Commission Chairman Willie Bell. And in a little over 6 months, on December 15th, the emergency manager's order will expire and the police commission will assume their traditional responsibilities. And so it was critical that I know that the leadership of the police commission supported this decision. You're going to hear from Chairman Bell, but you're in a rare case where the community has come together. And so I've done a lot of contract negotiations in my time. I think this one might have been the easiest. I think it lasted about 5 minutes. So Chief and I went out to dinner, and I said, I want you to stay. He says, oh, good. I said, now, here's the thing. Given the city's financial situation, I can't give you a raise. It's got to be the same pay and the same benefits. He said, that's all right. I said, I want to do a 2-year extension, take you through June 30th of 2017. And he said, that'd be great. I said, but I want to do more than that. I want to always have stability in this department. So let's have an agreement that if neither of us gives the other 12 months written notice, you roll over for another year every year. So if neither of us by next June 30th doesn't send a written notice, Chief Craig is automatically extended to June 30th, 18, and then 19, so we've always got stability. He says, that sounds great. I said, there's only one catch. I said, I really don't like these rumors about other cities trying to recruit you. So if we're going to do this, there's going to be a provision in here for me that says if you leave before your contract's up, you have to pay the city the entire balance of the contract. He says, I never heard of such a thing. He says, but I'm never going to leave, so I'll do it. So today, you have a contract. Where the chief is here, he's committed long-term, the city's committed long-term to him. He's committed long-term to us. I don't think you've got another police chief in the country who's promised to pay the city if he leaves. But he says, my family's all here, and they're here today. He says, I'll be glad to tell them. And it is my hope that if Chief Craig continues to perform in the future the way he has the last 2 years, James Craig is going to be the chief of police of the city of Detroit for many years to come. Congratulations, Chief.
Well, I'm hoping as we get started, we can finally put that Chicago rumor to bed. Anybody heard the Chicago rumor lately? I mean, even my friends in the media, they don't even ask me about it. But first, I want to give honor and thanks to God who have made this possible. But to Mayor Mike Duggan, you know, for his leadership, his confidence and support. And let me give you an example. So I had a chance to spend some time in L.A., and I was on the front seat of the L.A. riots. And clearly it's one of the most violent. We're talking about 50 people lost their lives in that civil unrest. I will tell you clearly, one of the factors was the mayor and the police chief didn't talk. Didn't get along, didn't talk. And that was a key factor. But I will tell you, we all know 3 weeks ago, we had the situation involving the agent. There was a shooting. Certainly the community was agitated by that. I had an opportunity to get out. We got out in front of it. I called the mayor, and all the mayor said is this. One, how can I help you? What do you need me to do? And finally he says, I'm here. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that support. And I can't say enough about the city council, certainly Council President Brenda Jones, who has certainly been a key supporter of police. Every time we're at a public event and the police are there, many of the officers know, she says, I just love the DPD. And so, Council President, thank you. Is she here yet?
No, you have to stop with me.
Okay. Thank you. And to President Willie Bell, certainly I appreciate our partnership and certainly your role in serving this great city. To U.S. Attorney Barbara McQuaid and the Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy, again, thank you for being a great partner and our continued effort to make this one of the safer cities in America. And to certainly my law enforcement partners, and by design, I didn't write a speech. I just want to thank everybody because this wouldn't be possible with all of the support and help. And so that's kind of my focus. But first and foremost, we talk about law enforcement partners. My partner in the federal government, Paul Abbott, I've said many times I've worked in now my third city as police chief, and Paul has been a great ally, a great partner, certainly in reducing violence in the city, but also eradicating corruption. To the MSP, I don't know if anybody hears from the MSP, but Director Kritchi Etchu, I want to thank you. She's been a great partner from day one. Certainly, we have a great effort with our major case unit in the homicide, and also her participation allowing deputies to come in and help us with eradicating violent crime. Wayne State University, Chief Holt. Chief Holt, I appreciate your leadership and certainly always your willingness to open up Wayne State to the DPD, especially when we talk about leadership training. Certainly other efforts we've made along the lines of looking at a crime lab or just a partnership, so I appreciate that. Wayne County Sheriff Benny Napoleon and all the remaining law enforcement partners, thank you. Thank you for any time we ring the bell here in Detroit, whether it's on one of our 18 large-scale operations, our law enforcement partners have always been there. Now to the city of Detroit, our neighborhoods, the people who work, who enjoy entertainment here, to our neighboring suburbs, our friends across into Canada, thank you. Simply thank you. I meet so many people, and they just say how much they appreciate the work we are doing here in Detroit, because they all love Detroit. You know, one incident comes to mind when we had the tragic shooting of Judge Berg, and I remember that Saturday morning, I called my staff, I said, we need a community meeting, and we need one fast. So, like we like to do, we spun it around. Within 48 hours, we had a meeting, and 600 plus people showed up. Some were turned away. But my takeaway from that was that this community is resilient, this community is engaged, this community is about making Detroit a safer city. And you oftentimes have heard me say that, you know, we the police can't do it alone. All experts know in our field that in order to make a city safe, it's the community's responsibility, it's their role of crime prevention. As police professionals, it's our role to facilitate and provide the necessary leadership. So Detroit, thank you. Another moment that certainly I reflect recently on is the Stalker and Samuels family, that organized effort, bringing two cities together. We estimate maybe 1,000 people at one point in that march on that Saturday saying we're fed up, we've had enough, and let's work together. That's the Detroit I know. That's the Detroit that makes me humbled and proud to be here. And then I can't say enough about our other community partners. Every single time, whether we have a serial rapist, a homicide investigation, we can call on Detroit 300, Malik Shabazz, Nation of Islam. And just let me tell you, in many cities, there is no relationship between the police and the Nation of Islam, but there's one here in Detroit. And then last, Pastor Mo of Living in Peace has been a great supporter, someone who, when we needed help, again, going back to that recent event, those three grassroots community organizations came together and said, we want peace. That's the difference between Detroit and some of the other cities, whether it's Baltimore, whether it's Ferguson. That's why Detroit's a great city. And then I want to talk briefly about our local businesses. Can't say enough. I was critical coming in the door. You know the conversations I had about the dilapidated police vehicles. You know, the ones with the peeling paint? Oh, I remember it vividly. But certainly my welcome, and it was already facilitated before I got here, but just, you know, the facilitation of 100 new vehicles. Penske, Quicken Loans, Kresge Foundation, Platinum Equity, Blue Cross, Shinola, GM, Ford, and Chrysler Corporation all came together to support this city, and thank you for that. And then recently, a donation by Shinola. Shinola made the first police bikes that they've made designed specifically for the Detroit Police Department. So to Shinola, thank you once again. And then Skillman. I can't say enough about Skillman. Ardent supporter of youth and community issues. When we launched the initiative, the neighborhood police officer, it was Skillman who stepped up without hesitation. I said, look, we need pads, we need phones, because we need our officers out in the field, communicating in real time with our community. They did that. And certainly, again, Chrysler Fiat, who has recently agreed, is in process to donate several 2015 Dodge Chargers to the Detroit Police Department. And then the Public Safety Foundation, certainly under the leadership of Kathy Govan. You know, when you look back, our 150th anniversary, our new police museum that's just outside the door, the Women in Blue event, what a great assistance, what a great help it's been, so I thank you for that. I'm going to miss some folks, so please, if I do, bear with me. Oh, we talk about community.
First rule of politics, introduce your family members.
Oh, I had something special. Okay, all right. The mayor gave me a directive. I would just ask, now I'm off my flow. If my family would please stand, my brothers and sisters, who really, Martin Craig, Margaret Craig, Janine, and Carolyn, who have been ardent supporters of me throughout my time here. So thank you for being here. Love y'all. And then we talk about now going back into community. I did recover, okay? Okay. Certainly, Leslie Andrews, who works for Rock Ventures, certainly someone who sits to my right and my left on our community advisory board. And when you talk about relationships, so important. And so I appreciate your involvement and the involvement of the board in the community. So talking about businesses, I would be remiss, a place that I have dinner often. Who can tell me where that's at? Sinbad's. Sinbad's. Two of the owners are here in celebration, Mike and Brian. Thank you for being here. I'm trying to get this flow going. And last and certainly not least, the Detroit Police Department, sworn in civilian. What can I say? The best of the best. MPOs, SRT, where's SRT? 12-hour standoff. I think it was 5 degrees. Never complained. We had an armed suspect suffering from mental illness. In fact, I thought I would help, probably the worst thing I could have done, and suspect began shooting at the vehicle. But the bottom line was they were there, they stayed with it, we were able to arrest and take the person into custody without incident. So thank you. Our MPOs, whatever we need them to do in terms of building bridges in our community, they do it. You know, the recent initiative of bringing out the MPO car, the neighborhood take-home car, the people in the community love it. True, you know, the city council recognized you recently, certainly for your work in getting a violent predator off the street, a serial rapist. They stayed on top of it and brought some closure. And certainly I would be remiss if I didn't talk about union leadership, because believe me, as a police chief, you know one thing, the people that count are the cops on the beat. If you don't take care of the cops, you can't take care of the community. That's why I always say cops count, but leadership matters. So I'm talking about Mark Diaz, Mark Young, and Eric Toski. Thank you for your leadership and what you do. So the mayor talked about the metrics and what we've done to reach them. I won't go back through it. Certainly I'll have a chance to talk individually with some of you. But certainly command accountability. Command accountability has truly been the key here. And so in closing, I just want to thank the media. People have referred to me as Hollywood. Well, truthfully, I am from Hollywood. But that's not why this relationship is so important. The relationship is important because through you, we've been able to communicate to our community how important the work we're doing, what we're doing. And so when people approach me in the community and said, you in the department are doing a fabulous job, and they only know it because they're not shadowing me, it's because of you. So thank you. And I'm going to just touch on something that Channel 7 editorial chief, or the station manager then, Mike Murray, I never forget this, and I wanted to say it and hold it true. So on October 9th of last year, he came out with an editorial, but he talked about what I said over a year ago. And what I said, hold me accountable. And if I'm not doing the job I said I would do, then get rid of me. And I've stayed true to that. But what Mike said he said the chief should stay. So I commend the mayor, the council, the police commission, who have all said the chief should stay. Thank you.
And City Council has been enormously supportive, and today we have council members Andre Spivey, Janae Ayers, and at this point, to speak on behalf of the council, the President Pro Tem, Councilman George Cushenberry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Chief, Chairman Bell. Can we have a moment of silence for those who have given their lives in the service of our great community? Amen. To the Reverend clergy and all who are assembled here, it's a pleasure to be here on behalf of my colleagues who, I don't think there's one who doesn't respect and adore the work that Chief Craig is doing. The most important thing he does is he's accessible. You can talk to him about things even that other people don't want to talk about. I asked him what could be his leadership to encourage the men and women in blue to come to the city and take advantage of our program. And he didn't shrink from that. He said, well, we'll have to see, Cush. And now we have police cars in the community. We have neighborhood police officers. And eventually I'm going to get him, Ike, to give me my B&E task force if it's the last thing I do. Because I think it's so important for us to recognize that the Detroit police are only as good as its intelligence from the community. We've worked real hard, Chairman Spivey and Vice Chairman Ayers and the rest of our colleagues, to expand our citizen radio patrols and citizens intelligence units, to strengthen our police-community relations, and yes, to reinstate the functions of the Detroit Police Commission. Those are the things that will make us and distinguish us continuously as an outstanding example of great community policing. So on behalf of my colleagues, I want to just say thank you, Mr. Mayor, for keeping Chief Craig. Say to Chief Craig, thank you for the wonderful team that you have assembled, starting with the first assistant chief. One of the things I noticed right away when he became the chief of police was the number of women and minorities that got promoted, and young people to ranks that were unheard of in the past. He's looked inside the police department and he found outstanding people and he's promoted them. So what can you say except thank you. Keep up the good work and we'll see you at budget time.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Certainly, the chief is first to recognize that the success of the Detroit Police Department as we go forward is dependent upon the men and women in blue who serve and protect the residents of the city of Detroit every day. And it's important that there's a strong working relationship with the officers' unions and the chief's office. Now we'll hear from our partner, DPOA President Mark Diaz.
Well, where do I begin? I can start where this all started for us was in the middle of bankruptcy. Well, we had an emergency manager who came in and said that we were looking for a new chief nationally. And I was advised by my friends down in Cincinnati, well, asked not to take their chief. So I started a little research on Chief Craig, who was at the time working down in Cincinnati as their chief of police, and I started calling different entities within the Cincinnati Police Department, and I was speaking with their frontline police officers, asking them what they think about their chief. And I kept getting these great reports just randomly. Finally, I asked a guy, what do you think about your chief? And he says, here's his phone number, you call him. You ask him. See how accessible he is to his frontline police officers. So I did what any union president would do. I called him. Never met before. We spent 20 minutes on the phone talking like we were old friends that hadn't seen each other in a while. That was the foundation for a relationship between a police union and the future police chief. Chief Craig being here today and reiterating what Emergency Manager Kevin Orr had seen in Chief Craig is a result of a partnership between our citizens, our mayor, our police chief, and our frontline police officers. We have a long way to go, but look what we've come through. Look where we are today and everything that we've done, and that has been a result of a strong partnership. From those phone calls that I get at 10, 11 o'clock at night from the chief, that kind of relationship. Well, the mayor as well. That kind of a relationship. And that is what we need to move forward. And again, we've come a long way. We have a long way to go. And I am incredibly proud on behalf of the men and women who are protecting the citizens of the city of Detroit, the businesses within the city of Detroit, and all who visit the city of Detroit. I thank the mayor, I thank the citizens of Detroit for sponsoring and being an advocate to keep Chief Craig here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Diaz. Now we will hear from President Diaz's counterpart, the President of Lieutenants and Sergeants Association, President Mark Young.
It started, the relationship and the leadership of Chief Craig and me started before he actually arrived here. What is needed is stabilization. We've been through a lot. One of the things that I admire and respect about you, Chief Craig, is the openness, the open door policy. We don't always agree. There's a small window that we don't. But I'm gonna tell you, what I do respect about you is sometimes we have those tough meetings and it seems to go south, but later on, either you call me or I call you, and some kind of way it's mended back together. I know in my heart that you have the best interest of the men and women of the Detroit Police Department. You'll have my support. The men and women that I represent support you. Leadership is what's needed. We have that. Stabilization is what's needed. We have that. And we're looking forward to the future. And Mr. Mayor, we thank you for this appointment, this reappointment, because the city of Detroit is moving in the right direction. Together, it cannot be done with the egos of an individual. It must be a collective coalition. We get that. And that's where we're going to take it. Thank you.
Thank you, President Young. And now we'll hear directly from one of our officers, Corporal Calvin Lewis, who's assigned to reserves, to share his thoughts and perspectives on today's announcement.
First of all, good morning. My name is Corporal Lewis, and I'm currently assigned to the Chief's Neighborhood Liaison's Office, as well as the Reserve Office. Before I get started, I want to say thank you to the mayor for bringing back our chief. On behalf of the members, you guys really don't understand how important it is to have effective leadership. Because right now, our police department needs to move in a direction that is duly needed. And our members, we have some great members on this police department, young men and women who work very hard every day. And they're not getting their just due because other members decide to do things that they choose to do. So I want to thank the mayor and I want to thank the chief. The chief came up with an initiative with the corporal rank as well as the MPO rank. When the chief first came out with this initiative, I was a little apprehensive about being a part of it because I didn't actually know him. And at that particular time, there was a lot of execs that I did not know. But after having an opportunity to speak with the chief and having an opportunity to speak at a retreat that he gave just 2 years after, I finally quickly understood that we had the right person for this job. So my commitment to you and to the city of Detroit is to make sure that our officers are out there doing the things they're supposed to be doing, making sure they're holding a high moral aptitude, making sure that their integrity is in check, making sure that they're giving the city of Detroit selfless service, and I mean every single day. So on behalf of the members of the city of Detroit, thank you.
Thank you, Corporal Lewis. Another very important partnership we have is with the Detroit Police, Board of Police Commissioners, I should say, which plays a critical role in many aspects of our department. Please welcome Board Chair Willie Bell.
Good morning to the mayor, to the chief, to his executive team, and to his family, and to you, and to my chief, Chief Ike McKinney, the deputy mayor. Come up through the ranks as individuals like him that mentor young officers like myself who joined this family in 19... You got me. But basically, they were our role models because they broke us in, and as senior black officers who went through a whole lot in terms of this department, we did not always have the relationship with the DPOA. That has changed. Now you're standing within this family. And I want to say to the mayor, you made a major decision out of all your appointments. This is a game breaker in terms of Chief Craig being reappointed as chief. He is part of Detroit finest as a young person that went on to graduate from, I don't even mention that school, Cass Tech. But all the public school grads, but I don't know about Hollywood, but I know he's the Detroiter. And I know individuals from across this country because I was very fortunate on the Chief Hart and Mayor Young to travel across this country to advocate police reform and represent this department and encourage African Americans and women to be part of law enforcement across this country. So I was really blessed for 10 years and worked with the community. I've always been a community police officer, not a police. But basically, my concept, whether you're serving people on Mack and Bewick or you're serving people in Palmer Woods, it should be equal treatment to all. And that is the basic of community policing. And that's why this department is what it is today, because of those pioneer officers who made the sacrifice in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and 80s and 90s, who changed and joined the department and made it a career. I hope that young officers will have the same mentality in terms of this is a career, this is an opportunity to serve this community. And we have been blessed in terms of this Chief Craig leadership, in terms of impacting. You're right, at the Wayne State Forum, when a police officer got opportunity to speak to our so-called upper rank, and they spoke from their heart in terms of the issues they were facing. I was impressed because most chiefs would not bring in police officers to speak to those hardcore issues to say, this is what we've been dealing with. So I know most of my career was spent in the rank and file, from police officer to sergeant to lieutenant, so I've always been close to the ground and in reference to. So the Board of Police Commissioners, I'm glad to hear what the mayor said, and then Councilman Pro Tem, and that we want to be fully duty mandated in terms of our charter responsibility to serve this community that we was elected and appointed to. And we want a partnership. We want to be ambassadors to you, because that's what we represent, no more, no less, because we are concerned about the issue. That's why I ran for office and I was elected to serve this community. We want to serve. So we have a great commission, 11-person commission. It has changed from the 5. So basically is that the heart and soul of this community is you. You are the spirit of Detroit. I always say that you are the spirit of Detroit. I'd anticipate this room being to this capacity, representing a cross-section of people from all walks of life. If we can turn this around, and we have turned it around, the mayor's offering great leadership, but basically public safety always starts with you. Start within your family, start within your neighborhood, start within your school, start within your church. If you keep that in mind, it is not up to the police department to be on the front line without your support. So we need your cooperation. That is the spirit of Detroit. I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. The chief always say, keep it brief, Bell, keep it brief. Then he rolled out his 10-page speech. But he's the chief. He's the chief. So, but I want to, I just really want to close by saying that we are truly blessed. And I'm a Christian young man, the chief is too, and we all are, because we know that nothing is possible without God blessing. And he has smiled on us. So we need to share that blessing. over and over again because our cup overflow. And that's what it's all about. I look at BC in terms of that car, and I know he's committed. And I know other officers committed. And I'm not into where you live now. I just know when you come in the city of Detroit, you should be committed to the city of Detroit. If you can't say something good, don't say anything, because I would be upset. We should be upset, because this city, this is Detroit. This is the D. This is Motortown. This is you. You are the spirit. Thank you.
This is the D. Thank you so much, Chairperson Bell. Finally, speaking of the voices of the community, there are few stronger voices and better partners to the Detroit Police Department than Pastor Maurice Hardwick of Live in Peace Ministries and Minister Malik Shabazz. We would like to welcome them both up to the podium now to talk about the work they do and their work with Chief Craig and our department.
I stand in honor of my Lord and Savior, in honor of this great city, in honor of our great mayor, who I feel is doing a wonderful, powerful job. And the evidence of that is maintaining stability through safety, through a great, powerful leader in our own Chief Craig. I want to stand today. My name is Pastor Maurice L. Hartwick. I'm better known as Pastor Mo. I'm also known as the street sweeper, AKA my brother's keeper. That stands for something in the streets. The reason why I'm here today, let me explain to you about the city and where we're going with this and what God is doing. I don't care what you build up in monuments and structure. You have to build people, and people cannot have a good life without safety. You can't just build up education systems and buildings and parks. You have to be safe. You buy this city and it's not safe, it loses its value. We're here to disarm and make the city safe, disarm the evils. And because we want to make the city safe, sometimes, see, Chief Craig is doing a new thing. I'm going to tell you why I'm here. In tradition, we want to hire the smart, educated people who did well. But here's the problem with that all the time. The educated, smart people are usually not the problem when it comes to crime. It's the ones who did not finish school, the ones who have been left behind, the ones who have hopelessness. Hello, I was the hopelessness. I did not graduate. I fell to a life of crime. I hurt the city, and God has turned my life around. And I stand today to live in peace. So Chief Craig is doing a new thing where he's saying he's reaching out because he realized he can't arrest his way out of this. He's making a statement, him and our mayor, to say we're coming in to partner up and give young, hopeless people a chance and a way out. To take Pastor Mo and put me in here in this room is a statement to say, I want to work with our young people. If you want to stop crime, we're saying stop growing it. We're growing it in mass production across the country. And Detroit would be a model to cut our grass and save our children. So I stand today as a catalyst to live in peace. LRP is a movement we're birthed and we're cloaking the city. You see us everywhere. We're not playing about this. And we're asking to add every piece. The mayor just added a powerful piece. Mayor, you're building. You're building. I honor you, sir. I don't care what they say about you, you're building. No, because people talk and people pop off and don't have any evidence, don't have any truth. They get in their emotions, but he is working and changing, and Chief Craig is showing that. Commissioner, the city council. I love city council. I love Brenda Jones and Cush and all the people. We're working. Now, everybody's not perfect, but we're working. Media, you have a part in this. You must report the right stories. We put stuff out there. Let's encourage our city. Let's not put stuff to tear our minds down. Systemic mindset of depression and recession and murder and looting. We're going to show the right thing. We're building. Get behind the building block. The police protect us. I tell a young man, I'm out here in these streets. I'm from the bricks. I don't sit behind no pulpit. I'm a pastor, but I don't sit behind no pulpit. If I'm a pastor, you're supposed to be a shepherd. The shepherd's supposed to protect the sheep, according to John 10:10. If you do not protect the sheep, he says you are hireling, which means you're preaching for money. Ezekiel said, go on the wall and blow the trumpet. Well, I'm sounding the alarm. Our citizens were not safe years ago, 2 years ago. We're responding quicker now. And people want to say, I tell the young people, don't get mad with the police, because if something happened in your house, who you calling first to go get your mother? Let's get real about this. There's some mistakes been made, but we're working on getting it right. Give us a chance. And I stand here with Young Black Urban America. I stand here from the people in the urban community. These are my people. I'm representation of what God can do when we unite and give people a chance. Give us a chance. And Chief Craig and Mayor today saying, we're giving you that chance. We will live in peace. I want this whole room to say right now, please just go with me. Say, I thank you, for what God is doing. As of today, there will be a new fire, a new spark, that we shall live in peace, be safe, build our city, build our youth, love each other. Detroit is the new model of mobility and movement of greatness. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Mo. Now the Mayor-in-Chief will take questions regarding today's announcements, and we ask that the reporters keep their questions on topic during this portion of the program. If you have any other topic that you'd like to ask questions about, the Mayor-in-Chief will avail themselves immediately after of the conclusion of the program. Thank you.
What's your biggest challenge moving forward? What do you think still needs to be done?
Well, the work's continuing. When you talk about crime, we have still got to continue to drive crime down. We got to continue. It's always a work in progress when you talk about relationships in our communities. So that's work in progress. So I'm excited. You've heard the speakers today. I'm committed. The mayor's committed. We're going to get this job done. But it's a challenge, but it's a reward.
Chief, this is a 2-year contract that, as the mayor pointed out, it could be extended automatically indefinitely. How many years do you have left in you?
Well, I will tell you, this is the biggest challenge in my 38 years of policing. 38 years next month, to be exact. I got some good years left in me. You want to know how I get it done? Every morning, I work out. Because as soon as I hit the door of this place, it's on. And so that kind of keeps me vibrant. And, I'm passionate. I love what I do. I'm passionate about it, so it keeps me going.
Calling Chicago tonight and telling them
That was a rumor that you started, Roop. Right?
But the question I have actually is more about the fact that, you have these great other cities in the country that are calling after you. That says a lot about the work that you've done. How would you say, and how do you continue to plan to do this, how would you say you were able to do that and kind of do that in a really short period of time? What's the key?
Well, I said at the beginning of my remarks about the good grace of God, I knew coming here, when the Detroit opportunity presented itself now, 22, 23 months ago, some of my colleagues in L.A., Cincinnati said, you have lost your mind. But Detroit is home. I saw and knew that this was an opportunity, and coming home at this point and this time, new leadership was the right thing. So I'm home. I'm absolutely good with that.
Chief, the release says you want to finish out your career here. So kind of back to Channel 4, Channel 7, I should say. Can you give us
Oh, you want to know how long? Well, I'm getting up in age, but I still got many good years ahead of me. They're working out. So, I don't know. There have been police chiefs in their middle 60s, late 60s, but it's a grueling job. And the key for a police chief when you come in is so important to identify and have a succession plan. I don't care what department I've been in, including this one, I look for talent. And I will tell you, First Assistant Chief Hauser is part of that talent. Chief White, part of that talent. Chief, did I say it right? DeLont, who said he thought he was getting announced today, by the way. But it's part, yeah, he said that's the news story. Steve DeLont. So I'm, yes, ma'am.
I still love calling you Hollywood Craig. I mean, you just got to look, and plus we love you like that. It's our community, the Muslim community.
Thank you.
Mayor Duggan had said when he first came in, I don't know if you remember, that he would keep you if you do the job. So I already know that you're doing the job. And I wanted to know, what about the drugs in the city of Detroit? Are we still doing big operations on getting rid of community drugs?
Yes, we are still doing big operations. In fact, those big operations, 18, or it might be 19 now, hadn't had solely a drug focus. That was certainly part of it. I will tell you some good news. There's an operation, or as I used to affectionately refer to as a party, coming to a neighborhood near you real soon.
And Chief, how does it make you feel to have the support of everyone behind you and the community? It's got to be a great feeling coming from being appointed by the emergency manager.
It's exciting. I got to tell you, my wildest dreams, you know, a police chief survival is based on a couple of pieces. I call them the revolving plates. One, the community. Two, rank and file, the police officers doing the work. And then third, the politicians, the elected leaders. If two of those plates start to wobble and go out of sync, you're done. You're absolutely done. If you can keep three of them going, you're good. And so I have kind of my mentor, Chief Bernard Parks, who was a police chief in L.A., who I had the good fortune of sitting outside of his office. I remember that's the one thing he placed on me. Two plates, one plate can go out, but if two, you're done. And so I hold true to that. And so I'm really fortunate at this point, but I also know we're always a step away of something bad. You know, and that's just the nature of the work. Staying ahead of it and building up what was described earlier as that capital of trust is so important.
How do you keep the plates all going in the same direction?
Oh, it's a challenge. It's almost like, you know, but as it's been pointed out, I give a lot to the organization, to the city, and it's tough. And that doesn't mean everybody's happy. In each of those segments, there are going to be folks that are not going to be happy. But it's about outcomes, it's about results, and certainly when you talk about driving change, it really has to be a holistic approach, and you really need to elicit the community's involvement. We, the police, cannot do it alone. Our police are stretched thin. They call it the thin blue line. But, you know, I have the great opportunity to work with some of the very best police officers I've ever had to work with in America. And believe me, I've worked in some great police departments. But this one here, number one.
Question for the mayor. Mr. Mayor, we've been hearing for months that so-and-so would be the next chief, so-and-so would be the next chief. And given the atmosphere in this room this morning, were you concerned that if it wasn't Chief Craig, you'd get a lot of pushback?
Never, again, those things were generated by you. So, right. Chief Craig comes in every Wednesday morning, as he has for the last year and a half, measured on the metrics. And the performance has been phenomenal. Response time. We're going to push out another 200 or 300 police officers on the street before the end of this year. You're going to see them be even more effective. But I look at what the chief and the department have done with the resources they have. It's been outstanding. It's my job and the other folks up here job to get them even more resources. And we're going to do this. But I never had any doubt. And as I said, we had a 5-minute contract negotiation, easiest one of my life. Any other questions?
You mentioned earlier that the city is still far too violent. Did you have any discussions with the chief about areas that you're concerned about or ideas that you make?
We discuss every day. I'm deeply engaged, and the chief and I can recite the numbers equally accurately. And if you look at them, if you look at the broad range of crime reduction in so many departments, it's very impressive. But the average person, first and foremost, looks at shootings and homicides. That's just the reality. And so it is a different strategy. You saw a great bust of a chop shop last night by the police department. It is a different strategy to reduce car theft than it is to get people to stop using guns to settle beefs. I mean, they're different strategies. And I sit with the chief of the management team. They've given me a list of resources that they would like. I've been engaged in getting the U.S. Attorney and the prosecutor on the same page on an overall strategy, and those things will come together. But we're in this together. We talk every day. I know a little bit about these strategies from my time as prosecutor. And I just look at this, and I just could not be more pleased at the leadership team in this department right now. This wasn't any kind of complicated decision. This one was easy. Anything else? Thank you all very much for being here.